Hi Year 6 and welcome back to Learning Journey Home Learning, and this will be our last week of our Learning Journey Home Learning, and then when you come back next week we're going to be starting a new learning journey. And today we're going to be thinking about something called precise verbs. I'm going to underline that here, precise verbs. And what really we need to do is we need to start using some precise words, verbs in our writing. We need to start using some precise verbs in our writing because they show the reader the actions or behaviour of a character, and they go into that further detail and make our writing more interesting because the reader can imagine what we're saying better when we use those precise verbs. And I'm going to give you an example. Here, the snow leopard walked around the mountain. And my other example is the snow leopard prowled around the mountain. Well, we know that a verb is a doing or a being word. And so, for example, what's the snow leopard doing in this sentence? He's walking, so our verb is walked. However, here I've said that the snow leopard prowled around the mountain. And what that precise verb does is it explains in greater detail almost how the snow leopard is walking. He's not walking, he's prowling. And it helps create a much better image in our mind. And that's why we use precise verbs, because they convey the action or behaviour of character much, much better. And that's what we want to use today. We want to use those precise verbs. I'm going to put a tick next to it there so we know what we're trying to achieve today. And as I've just said down here, which sentence is actually more interesting? Well, we know it, the one with the precise verb is. So then what we're going to think to do about today is we're going to think about precise verbs in greater detail. So we're going to think about actually why is a precise verb important? Why is a precise verb important? And if you look here, well, a general verb is a word that you use in everyday language. So we use that in everyday language, and often we might use that with our friends. Whereas a precise verb is a higher level word that maybe has a similar meaning to the general word, but it's much more specific. So here, rather than walked, which basically could, you can walk in loads of ways. You can't just prowl, but you could sprint, you could jog, you could jump. Walked is a general term for all of those things, and it's a very general verb, but it's quite boring. And when you imagine someone walking, it's not. It doesn't really. You don't really know how they might be walking. Whereas the prowled is very specific, and it tells us that the leopard was prowling, creeping around the mountain. So yeah, it's much more specific, and that is why precise verbs are very important. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to create a page around precise verbs in your learning journey book. So what you're going to need up here, well, we know here that I have a title, so everyone's going to need a title, precise verbs. Then at the top of my page, you're going to tell me why precise verbs are important. So I want you to write me a very short paragraph on why precise verbs are important, and you can see here I've already told you that. So if you're really struggling, you can go back in the video and see what I wrote. And then what you need to do is you're going to do a little activity. And this is the activity, and I want you to do that down the left of your page. Your activity today is you're going to need to match the general verb, for example, run, to the much more precise verb. And as you can see over here, the precise verb is sprint, because that's like a type of running, isn't it? So you need to match your general verbs here to your precise verbs, and you're going to do that activity in the left hand side of your page a bit here. So on the left hand side of your learning journey page, underneath your paragraph on why precise verbs are important, you're going to do the activity, and I want you to do that now. So pause the video and have a go at matching these general verbs to the precise verbs on the left hand side of your learning journey book. So pause the video now. And now that you've done that, I want you to think of maybe more precise verbs that you could go away and you could use in your writing. So for example, we're going to be writing a story based around an animal in our learning journey, and I want you to think of some examples of precise verbs you could use in your story that are really going to explain how your characters do something and almost how they act. So have a think of some precise verbs for your story. And then you should have a whole page for your learning journey work today, all about precise verbs. Well done, and don't forget to upload your work to Class Dojo.